Yo, it's your man with the plan, Marcel Lars here. Here reacting to another Tag the Legend RPG video. I really been feeling his last video, which is actually the most recent video. This is the video before the last one we watched. And this one is talking about why so many RPGs end up on mobile. And I was kind of going into that when I was talking about how the RPG market, the JRPG market, was losing a lot of their players to the gacha game market, and kind of like how the game's taking too long and the remakes of really old games is basically hurting the brand of it and they're losing out on stuff, and also how a lot of spin-offs and stuff end up being on the mobile phone instead of a full-time game, which also breaks the illusion of that there's a lot of there isn't a lot of games coming out. So I kind of talked about that last time, and he's beat me to it. This guy's great. I want to make my own video at some point, but he right now he got it. He got it. Congratulations, my man. You but yeah, please follow him and watch this video yourselves if you haven't watched it all the way with me. All right, let's get started.
Have you ever wondered why so many JRPGs end up on mobile? At some point, this stops feeling like a coincidence
It's a strategy.
and started feeling like a strategy.
It is, yeah,
Every big
exactly. He said the
JRPG
same thing
that
I
you've
thought.
Ever cared about pivots to non-stop mobile games instead of a new console follow-up.
Exactly.
This isn't
and
about...
they do that instead of like bringing out spin-offs. They make it to a mobile game, which half of the regular gamers don't like mobile games, at least in America. As a very Asian, gacha games are very gacha games, and mobile games are a very Asian market. So it start in very Asian market, or very like, unless it's like Candy Crush or something. So
Mobile games replacing console JRPGs, it's about avoiding risk. If you follow JRPGs long enough, you've seen this happen more than once.
Yeah, because they make more money, regardless if the gacha game's bad. They make more money.
Finds a diehard audience, and then instead of a proper sequel or mainline installment, the next chapter shows up on your phone. It started just for ports of old pixel games.
Which is crazy, because I have a theory that I always say that if your game has to, there's two categories to have a successful gacha game or a mobile game. Either you need to be a completely original idea like Genshin, Wuwa, ZZZ, Arc Knights, Snowbreak, all those games that you hear in the zeitgeist for those or any type of mobile game, or you need to be like a legendary franchise. I mean legendary, I mean like even regular people know the characters of that franchise, like Mickey Mouse, Dragon Ball Z, Fate, Naruto, you know, any of the shonen animes. Like, you need to be a legendary series to either a legendary series or original idea to have a really good gacha game. Things in between, I think the most successful gacha game that's off of like a video game that isn't like everyone just knows it is probably Persona 5X, which is not saying much because Persona 5X is not that successful, but it's okay. But that's like the most successful video game spin-off video game that we have, and that's still a Chinese gacha game that has a completely original story and characters. By the way, it's Persona 5 and everything. It is 80% original. If you play through it, I played through it a lot. It's 80% original. So, you know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Games like Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy Tactics, the floodgates really opened when gachas were introduced in JRPGs with Final Fantasy Record Keeper and Final Fantasy Brave Exvius.
Really? How old are these? These feel to be like 2010 or something.
JRPG mobile games to introduce gachas.
Looks like they can run on any phone.
These ones were both widely successful, reaching millions of downloads worldwide according to public app stores and market estimates. They show just how successful incorporating that gacha into a JRPG could be. Brave Exvius brought characters from the entire Final Fantasy franchise, but hid them behind a gacha. Now, this had the same
but the gacha was awful because it's Japanese. Japanese gacha is the worst gacha, by the way, when it comes to spending money and stuff. It's historic.
Brave Exvius
it's why I hated gacha games.
$3 billion in lifetime revenue.
They improved because of Chinese gacha games, by the way.
2024. Now, whether the player base stayed because it was a good game or because sunk cost
You know what? I have a faint memory of that. I'm like, what the hell? I have a faint memory of this. It's like before the game turned off, right?
From loyal fans without the high risk and investment of a console development. Now, fast forward several years and the formula is constantly being optimized and reiterated on, but Nier Reincarnation took an even more deliberate positioning approach with the Nier IP. Nier Reincarnation wasn't sold as a side project. Square Enix positioned it as a core
Nier is one of these franchises I was talking about that's kind of in the middle between legendary or original, where it's just like people know Nier. It's famous in the video game sphere, but it's not known outside of the video game sphere. It's a very legendary franchise in the video game sphere. So, you know, it's one of those games where it's probably it dies in like 2 or 3 years at max.
Not some disposable
Sometimes
spin-off.
a few months.
Yoko Taro was involved as the creative director, and Kechi Okabe returned for music, but they had to be involved for name recognition, or nobody would acknowledge this as the next Nier game. Like it or not, this is really just smart branding. You tell people it's a sequel or a follow-up, you bring back some names that they trust, and then you wrap it in an aesthetic that feels familiar. But structurally, it's still a mobile gacha first, and the gameplay loop, monetization, and the story all have to bend around that. This whole mobile pattern, it's not...
Well, that's not always true, but it is true for a lot of gacha games that are based off of other IPs. Because like, what else is there to do? There's no original story, there's no original idea outside of like maybe the gameplay, but you know Naruto as a character. You don't need to explore Naruto's background. So what else is there to do but to monetize the hell out of it? Unless you're Dragon Ball Z. And then Dragon Ball Z has so much different things going on. They have like alternate universes and stuff, but I digress, you know.
Random. It's a deliberate risk management strategy. It's also not just limited to one publisher or one era either.
That's Ichiban? Why he look like that? Yo, why he look like that?
All the way from Dragon Quest to Fire Emblem, the patterns repeat.
Fire Emblem Heroes, fun fact, Fire Emblem Heroes is my first gacha game.
Franchise,
I played that when I first got into college, and then after the first year I quit.
They've all jumped to release a mobile game.
I forgot Legend of Heroes has a...
At this point, I think the only JRPG that I can think of off the top of my head that doesn't have a mobile game is Xenoblade Chronicles.
Xenoblade does not have a
mobile
mobile
game. Both classic franchises and
modern
ones.
No, it doesn't.
But especially to the
I'm thinking about Tales
that still have strong name recognition. They're continuing to release new mobile JRPGs.
God, I hate this one. This one is the one that's the most disappointing.
We all have the same question. Who asked for this?
Exactly. Who asked for this?
Why mobile becomes the answer.
The question always comes down to, okay, if it's original idea, it's great. If it's a popular IP, okay, great, because it's really popular. You know, those people are going to show for it. But why would you make why would you make a game off of a game? It always is going to come off cheap. It's always going to come off cheap. Why would you make a game of a game? That's always that's the thing. Why would you make a game off of a game? Because the thing will always be, why can't I just play an original game or a spinoff? Why am I playing this cheap knockoff of Final Fantasy VII Remake right here?
To look at what problem it's actually solving. Most of the time, these mobile releases aren't reinventing JRPGs. It's really about solving a business constraint that console games can't touch. Industry reports from Newzoo show that mobile games account for nearly half of the global gaming market revenue. In recent years, that's been around 103 billion annually, compared to about 52 billion for console gaming. That's nearly double the revenue share. So the free-to-play monetization systems like gachas and microtransactions, those things drive this dominance because most of the mobile income doesn't come from upfront sales, but it comes from ongoing spending. A console JRPG, on the other hand, needs big upfront sales to even break even. And then when it comes to mobile, they can get that revenue from millions of small commitments over time. According to Sensor Tower,
which I gotta say, I think the Chinese have this locked down. I think Chinese and Korea have this locked down. I think Japan's monetization strategies and how they present their gacha games has always been a little lazy, in my opinion. They don't bring excitement. They bring nostalgia out in a box, which you kind of talked about last video. They bring nostalgia out in the box for these gacha games, which that's why they get slaughtered by all the Genshin and everything, because it's just like all these cool, fresh new ideas, sexy characters, sexy artwork, sexy all this other stuff, and cool. No, why would I go for Tifa when I've had 15 characters that remind me of Tifa in Genshin Impact that has came out, and they all have their own unique personalities and backstories, even if they're written badly or not. You know, it's like why do I keep on going back to the same characters when I can get a new one every other month, like 2 or 3 new ones? So
Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis passed 100 million in player spending worldwide in only the first year, with majority of that contribution coming from Japan.
Yeah.
A console JRPG could take millions of dollars in years to develop.
The
with
Western
no
market is a
actual
lot more
guarantees of
sensitive about
profit.
this stuff than
Mobile
Japan,
games
though.
often ship with smaller teams,
Because
shorter development cycles,
we're not completely
and then they're able to reuse assets,
overworked
characters,
completely,
soundtracks,
completely.
and more from the existing IP that they're branded with.
Especially in
Mobile
America.
spin-offs let publishers extract value from existing IPs.
But I play these games because I work. I'm not gonna lie. If I didn't work so much, I'd be playing other games.
But if it's a hit, you have a gold mine on your hands that's going to give you sustained revenue for as long as the game is alive. Mobile isn't chosen because it's better. I think we all know that. It's chosen because it's safer. Mobile game revenue also acts as a buffer when a console release underperforms.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't explain why
it used to be
JRPGs
the thing that used to take this up when it comes to the revenue. It used to be
any other genre except for anime. For that, you have to look into how JRPGs were designed long before gachas ever existed.
MMORPGs used to do this, but now they switched to gacha games.
I'd appreciate it if you subscribe and like the video. But now let's move into
people don't have patience for the MMORPGs outside of 14.
Mobile JRPGs aren't designed around Western reception. They're designed around markets where free-to-play RPGs consistently outperform
Oh yeah,
console
he's talking about it right now.
And once you look at how JRPGs have always been structured, the fit starts to honestly make an uncomfortable amount of sense.
Yeah, so it's kind of saying what I was saying in the past few
characters.
minutes.
Party members don't feel like just pixels because you spend a ton of time with them, diving into their identities and their motivations, which helps you build a deeper connection. Gacha systems monetize that attachment directly. Instead of recruiting characters through story progression, you have to pull them through a gacha, which uses gambling-like mechanics to pull on your emotional top.
Well, it's two things, because people underestimate gachas. Gachas have two currencies: your time. If it's a good gacha, your time or your money. And if you're a smart person that does that if smart person, don't play any of it. But if you are a smart person that does play gacha for real, you do a combination of both. You play, and then if you want to like really put in a little bit, put in like $20, $40, $50 here, whatever, and then call it. Trust me, because either one way you're going to use up all your time, or you're going to use up all your money. And either way, you don't want to do either. You want it to be under. I mean, ideally, you're spending under $100 for anything, but you want your purchases to be under $100. Trust me. I'm not the paragon of this, but most of the time, that's how it works for me. But you want that. Trust me, and always watch a video on the game on how the pooling system works, because every game has their own way of doing stuff. Just like every DLC, you need to do a review whenever you do every game. Do a review of how the gacha system works for every gacha game you play. Trust me, that's my responsibility as a part gacha game creator, part RPG creator.
Instead of gambling for financial benefit. This works especially well for us in the JRPG fandom because we already have emotional buy-in with the established IPs that they're building these games around. JRPGs expect you to have patience, while you grind out levels before you go take on the final boss. Mobile also exploits that patience tolerance with systems like daily stamina limits, time-gated upgrades, login bonuses, or even limited event cycles and battle passes. The loop stays the same, but the time control really changes. What used to just be play longer becomes come back tomorrow. So when a mobile game drip feeds story via short chapters released in waves, you're going to continue to show up because you don't want to miss out on any of the expanded canon info. Games like Nier Reincarnation, which we mentioned earlier,
I didn't think about that for like ones that are based off of video games.
These pull on huge IPs and sprinkle tidbits of new canon original story content.
And then when people talk about it, you don't know it, you seem like an idiot.
Not miss out. Ever Crisis dives into new canon.
Yeah, because they did Sephiroth's background,
on Sephiroth's origins. Now tell me, as a fan of Final Fantasy VII, is that something you feel you could miss? Turn-based combat in JRPGs also survives compression down to mobile games, where an action-based game feels fundamentally different when it's simplified to touch controls. Menu-driven combat scales down easily, and developers can implement auto combat to cover the repetition of daily grinding. So if mobile JRPGs fit this so well, then what's the problem? If the money works, the systems work, and the fans keep showing up, what exactly are we losing? This is where the cost shows up to you, the player. Once you've played one mobile JRPG, you've played them all. In classic JRPGs, progression is yours.
Yeah.
You grind when you want,
JRPG
you
specifically,
with different builds when you want, and you can push forward when the story pulls you. Mobile JRPGs take that control away. Stamina tells you when you're done. You're no longer driving at the pace of your curiosity, you're checking in. And then you have Gacha, which is introducing gambling mechanics into our JRPGs, not literally a casino, but structurally very similar. Limited banners, timed events, and generating tons of FOMO don't exist to add tension. They exist to push strong, repeated spending. As the mobile revenue grows, these systems aren't designed to get softer. They're designed to get more optimized as they find new ways to play on psychological strings to make you spend more. If done right though, I think a mobile JRPG could be a nice addition to a franchise, but it's that optimization part of the monetization that I feel like undermines long-term enjoyment.
I don't like that stories from the main franchise can be tied up with a gacha game though. I think that's what it is. If you're going to do that, do what Persona 5X does and just do a side story, or do a story that you would have never ever like, that's super loosely connected to the main story. Like, do a story on, I don't know, like a great example is like what's a good game to think about? Like, I guess Kingdom Hearts. Like, do a story on a character. I don't know, like I guess they did do it for Xehanort, Dark Road, but like do a real story about Xehanort that honestly is to little consequence to the main plot, because it doesn't really matter who Xehanort is, even though it's interesting, but it does matter what he did in the future, right? Unless there were some more secrets in his stuff. But you know, honestly, you want these games honestly all to be console games. Honestly, fuck this being mobile games, bro. Honestly, when it comes to stuff that already exists, I do not want to go to something else to get my information outside of a game or a book or a movie. Like, I don't like it when any of that crosses over. I don't want to read a book to understand a movie. I don't want to read a book to understand a video game. I don't want to play a video game to understand a movie. Final Fantasy 15 had this problem, where it was just like there was lore in every fucking type of merchandise possible. And it was like, I don't want to read through all of this.
Most players may never spend much, but a small group will spend a lot, and that's how these games stay profitable. There is also sunk cost fallacy at work here. Once you've put in time or money into a mobile JRPG, walking away feels harder, even when you stop enjoying it. I've put thousands of dollars into One Piece Bounty Rush and played it for at least 3 to 4 months after I stopped having fun because of that money I spent.
Well, that's the funny fact about this. This is partially true, but there's a point like he's talking about right now where you do lose interest. You lose interest. Doesn't matter how much money you put into it, you lose interest. That's what's happening with me with Honkai Star Rail a little bit. I'm like, God, I love all the Hoyo games, but this one's starting to kind of get on my nerves a little bit. Even no matter how much money I put into it, I could have put $1 million into it, and you still will quit something. It might quit a little bit later, but you'll still quit it because there's only a limit to how much you could feel sunk cost fallacy. That's a lie right there. Sunk cost fallacy is a temporary, unless you're just an addicted crackhead, which I think even out of the gacha space, if you're more addicted than even those people, you'll stay with the game. But most of us will stop playing.
Publishers know that they can forecast spending based on events and community engagement. Do we need a spike in revenue? This is where we release the new limited Joker banner, where he's designed to be OP and power creep the earlier units. The same logic of playing it safe also shows up outside of mobile too. Remakes and remaster run on that same safety first thinking. You already like this, you already trust it, and they already know it's going to sell well. So a remaster is so much easier to greenlight than a new mainline entry. A mobile sequel is easier than taking an actual risk. These are both different formats, but still based on the same decision. Both rely on familiarity over momentum. Both keep franchises active without actually trying to push them forward. There isn't really a clean solution here. Mobile JRPGs exist because they work so well financially. There's an argument that mobile JRPGs help fund mainline games. That steady revenue makes
keep the company afloat. Same difference though.
That might just be true. But it also teaches publishers where the safest money is. And when the safest money comes from mobile, then mobile becomes the priority no matter what fans want.
granted, it's a Eastern thing too, where Eastern people are overworked, and you know we say we are overworked, but Eastern people are very, very overworked. Like they get their sleep on mobile transportation, overworked. If they're gamers, for some people, this is how they game. They can only play Final Fantasy on their Switch or on their Steam Deck, or if they don't have a Steam Deck, I don't know if Steam Deck is popular over Japan, but they don't have a Steam Deck or a Switch, which is really popular in Japan, or a mobile phone, and you have an important job and you're a gamer, what are you doing? You know, as a Japanese citizen, because they're going to overwork their ass. So on your breaks or while you're spending the night over in the office, you can play Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's why they have the Switch. That's why the Switch is so popular there. They're overworked even more than we are, in a different way. They're overworked in a different way. So it's for them, and they kind of like, and then they don't really. In fun fact, a lot of gacha game companies don't really give a fuck about us. Like a lot of mobile game companies don't give a fuck about us in the West. We're a byproduct. They're like, we do this for China, for Korea, and Japan, and Vietnam, and all the other countries there, and then we have a decent English-speaking population that likes the same stuff. So we're going to do an English branch as well. But they would trust me, if they could and it was reasonable, they would cut off the English branch and just keep on going Asian only. Trust me, I just know how they work. Especially Chinese ones.
So the next time your JRPG shows up with the mobile announcement, don't ask why. Ask what's being traded away this time.
Yeah. Because you're losing the spin-offs, man. The spin-offs. You're losing the spin-offs. Pokemon Tranze. Fucking Pokemon, like all these Pokemon Cafe Mix could have been a spin-off, man. All these games could have been a spin-off. I'm trying to think about all these Pokemon games. Wasn't there like a top game or something? The Pokemon MOBA game, I guess that's going to be a MOBA. That was always going to be a MOBA. I can't think of a way that could have been a non-online free-to-play game. But it's like almost every Pokemon game has a free-to-play for it. But yeah, please, this is really good. This is really good video. Really, really good. Thumbs up to him. Tag the legend. My final thoughts on this. It just seems like the JRPG industry, and I hate using JRPG because I know they don't like when we say JRPG because they want to be RPG, but this is a specific problem, as I said last video, for JRPGs. They need to lock the fuck in. I don't know if it's not time frames, it's content. They need to lock the fuck in. They need every franchise needs to come out with a new okay to decent banger. Okay, just we and hell, even a new franchise itself, you know. The idea that I know it's like the idea that gacha games and indie developers are outperforming in new ideas, not in actual performance but in new ideas. You just be like, damn, if Square Enix is locked in, you could get a Sea of the Stars from them. It could be like full 3D. I think that's what it's called, Sea of the Stars. Can't remember what that game's called right now, but I think it's Sea of the Stars, whatever that indie game is, RPG. But no, they won't lock the fuck in. Just lock in. Square Enix, lock in. Everyone lock the hell in. Please. Gust, lock in. But yes, thank you so much for watching this video with me. It was a lot of fun, and I'll see you guys next video on the stream. All right, buddy. Bye-bye. Please subscribe to this man.
What are you search for? Send this before like nothing but a joke. Your sicky imagination, pure illusion, escaping from the hole without a female.